sound check, make sure you can hear me because the sound was being a pain in the butt a second ago, or I guess a couple weeks ago. The sound's been pretty good recently, but I do want to do a quick sound check. Make sure you guys can hear me. Um, if this would work. Let's see. And we're good. All right, sound check is good. Okay, guys, I'm going to turn this from unlisted to public. Happy Friday. Thank you all for being here. Please take a moment to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral. Yesterday, I very much enjoyed chatting about the book Enshittification and some of the concepts that I thought applied to Freemasonry, specifically the concept of switching costs and whether or not the switching costs within Freemasonry could be considered too low, what that actually means, and how we could, in Freemasonry, potentially increase those switching costs, or if we should even consider or try to increase those switching costs. But let's give it a few minutes. Let's see who joins. Please take a moment, as always, to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and thank you everybody for being here. Let's give it a bit of time. Let's see who joins. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, I'd like to hear them. On Friday, I don't have any specific streams, or specific subjects, excuse me. Rather, I just wait to see who wants to join and who wants to talk. So any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, let me know. The 1 p.m. streams, Mondays through Thursdays, I tend to have specific topics. When it comes to Friday, 1 p.m., I just hang out, see who joins. Probably not, Lucia. I mean, I don't know what the issues are, but you should be contacting the police, would be my suggestion in that case. Again, I don't know what the issues are, but depending on the nature of the issues, you should be contacting the police, is what I would say. Go to the hospital as well if there are medical issues involved. You can always go to the hospital and, speak with them there. That may be what's necessary. Or speak to somebody or, try to find support and help. But I would think the police would be your best option. We're just going to hang out, wait to see who joins. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. Any thoughts you have on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, let me know. I've been a Freemason for 20 years. The purpose of this channel is to promote the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located. No, he was not. I mean, Freemasonry Freemasonry started around 1634, so 1,600 years too early. Hello, Total Tech. Thank you for that. I hope you're doing well. I do not know who the musical business Martin is. The Total Tech, let me know how you're doing. Thank you for being here. By the way, I hope everybody will consider doing a super chat. Just 99 cents helps out big time. Dream Tiny House. A Freemason is a member of a Masonic lodge. Masonic lodges are civic or community clubs or organizations that exist within communities around the world. They're under different jurisdictions and different jurisdictional kind of rules and regulations. They are groups that evolved from stonemasonry guilds in the Middle Ages. Thank you. Most people say I'm very ugly, so I appreciate that. I'm going to call you Ixa. Please hit like and subscribe. Well, just a fellow brother, you may want to consider going to the hospital or talking to a doctor. That sounds dangerous. I hope that if you are using any substances, you're using them with doctor's instructions as best as you can, because that sounds dangerous. Good afternoon, Michael Moore. How's it going? I don't know if you saw my stuff yesterday, Michael Moore. I don't know if you have any thoughts on the switching costs associated with moving away from Freemasonry, or if you know what the switching cost refers to. Um, but I thought it's from a book called Enshittification. I thought it was a very interesting book. Um, and I think it's worth Freemasons considering. I'm just making that the poll question. How to become a Freemason conservative? What you need to do is contact the Masonic Lodge within your area and express an interest in joining. It's a process. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. But give them a call, write them a letter, send them an email, and see how they're doing. So switching costs are the costs associated with moving away from a product or service. In online parlance, or in business parlance, it's any costs that make it, in theory, either more difficult or less likely for you to want to move away from a product. So, for example, if you get a subscription and you want to cancel the subscription, but there's an early cancellation fee, that's a switching cost, right? I got my red shirt on right now. In Freemasonry, a switching cost might be, for example, you no longer get to see your Masonic brothers. And that's a cost that happens if you move away from Freemasonry or demit from Freemasonry. At least no longer get to see them in a Masonic circumstance, right? If you are paying, let's say, $500 in dues per year, and you have 10 meetings per year, one of the switching costs could be the feeling like, let's say you don't attend any meetings, that you've missed out on the $500 that you spent for your dues, are another example of switching costs. The problem is, in very many cases, it feels like the switching costs for leaving Freemasonry are a lot lower than the switching costs for, let's say, ending your Netflix account. If that makes any sense, let me know if it does. The battle goes, Dream Seeker. The battle goes. Lucia, don't think about Freemasonry in terms of ranks. That's not the right way to think about it. Think about it in terms of offices and degrees. The highest degree within Freemasonry is the 3rd degree Master Mason. The highest office is Worshipful Master. Or you could maybe argue, if you wanted to, you could maybe argue Installing Master. Well, I mean, I think the problem with, because it's the term cost, Brother Michael Moore, we tend to think of it in money, but I mean, a switching cost is just anything you might lose as a consequence of moving away. So again, with Netflix, one of the switching costs, if you were to choose to leave Netflix, is you lose access to whatever content they have, right? With Freemasonry, again, it could be, for example, um, you lose the ability to connect with your brothers. Maybe you lose dinners if there's a good dinner coming up or good refreshments, right? There are different types of costs, but it's interesting. I would recommend, if you get the chance, Michael Aaron Moore, read this book called Enshittification, by the author's name is Doctoro. It's a great book. Um, it's about online platforms, but it really does apply to Freemasonry, at least in my opinion. We're talking about Freemasonry, Winston. Please take a moment, hit the like and subscribe button. Undeclared, usually when people say they have a serious question, it's about to be a troll. But nonetheless, let me know what your serious question is. Yes, we got to get more likes, just 2. Fancy, some people, I am a 3rd degree Master Mason. I'm also a Worshipful Master. Fancy, some people think Jesus is. Some people think he's not. I mean, I'm not going to judge anybody's religious beliefs. If you believe, you know, if you're a Christian, more power to you, and I wish you all the best. Um, I mean, I'm the worst person to discuss religious or theology, that's for sure. It's not that impressive, don't get me wrong. Because again, don't think about Freemasonry in terms of highest levels, lowest levels. That's not the way you should think about it. You should think about, you know, the best Mason is the Mason who works the hardest and puts the most work into the craft, whether they be working incredibly hard as an entered apprentice, a fellow craft, a steward, whatever it might be. My favorite food, oysters. Without a question, raw oysters. I love them. I mean, politically, I don't know. I'd say with Iran, it's the same thing as my thoughts with any other country. Nothing but respect for the people in the country. I wish them well, and I hope that you know they are able to get to a place with freedom and peace. I know that's a very wishy-washy thing to say, but I think you always have to separate. I've said this about every country. You have to separate the people from the country from the political situation in the country. And again, whatever you may think about the politics or the governance or the government of Iran, there's people there, just like people anywhere else. They have families, they have friends, they love people, they care about things. They just want to live their lives. And you know, I wish them, like I said, I have nothing but best wishes for them, especially going through the incredibly challenging time that they are currently going through. I've never heard, I don't know what the code of suffering is. I've never followed a code of suffering. I've definitely suffered sometimes in the sense of sacrificing my time and my energies towards Freemasonry. But, you know, that's, if you love something, then part of that is sacrificial, right? You have to be willing to sacrifice your time and your energy towards the thing. Otherwise, and again, not so much that you're quote unquote a sucker. You have to take care of yourself as well. But I've never heard of this code of suffering. I don't know what that is. That sounds like a lot of nonsense. I am a Freemason, Jackie Moon. I'm not rich, but I do love raw oysters. I've never inflicted suffering, nor have I tried to eliminate the weak, which is probably a good thing, because if we ever tried to eliminate the weak, I'm sure I'd be eliminated because I'm quite weak. So there you go. I cannot call George Bush, but George Bush isn't a Freemason, in fairness. Having said that, even if he was, I can't just call any Freemason just because they're a Freemason. That's not how it works. Right now, Infamous Flex, I'm trying to take care of myself through YouTube. So please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Please consider doing a super chat. Just 99 cents helps big time. So maybe consider, if you can, doing a super chat. I do not. Freemasonry is not a religion. We do not worship anything. Every Freemason needs to determine for himself. You know, he could be Christian, he could be Muslim, he could be Jewish, he could be whatever it is. The point is, every Freemason has his own religious beliefs or own belief in a supreme being. That is not to say that, you know, it's not a system of worship in and of itself. It's not a religion. So we don't worship. Well, Lucia, I mean, I have a Patreon as well. You can support me through Patreon. You can do a super chat, or sorry, not a super chat. You can become a member there. There's a lot of different ways to become a Patreon or a supporter of the channel. We don't have prayers. We do have, I prefer the term invocation. I don't like to use the term prayer. Raphael, Scottish Rite. There's also York Rite. There's not New York. There's York Rite. There's also Shrine. No, we do not, Jackie Moon. By the way, Dream Seeker. That's right, Dream Seeker. I do play my PS3 at the Masonic Temple. Thank you for joining us yesterday on my personal stream with Smokey. I very much look forward to you, maybe the three of us and others, all doing a live stream together. I have to figure out how to make it work. But it'll be a lot of fun, I think, if you want to do it with us again. I think it'd be really cool to have you on the channel as well. Um, Thank you, Brother Michael, for the 5 gift memberships. That's incredibly kind of you. And I greatly appreciate it. By the way, I do have to produce some more membership exclusive content, which I will be producing in February. So pay attention to that. But thank you. That's incredibly kind. Maybe Michael Moore would like to be on the stream as well with us. Um, that could be a lot of fun also. I mean, the fellow members can help out if they were to so I mean, if I were to ask them, I'm sure they would consider it. There is such a thing as benevolence, right? Benevolence being where if you are struggling, you can ask for help. And I've known brothers who would be homeless were it not for Freemasons stepping in and helping them out, paying for their rent, paying for their mortgage, whatever it might be, which is incredibly, incredibly kind of them. Um, So yeah, again, you shouldn't join Freemasonry with the hope of getting like financial assistance because not every lodge can afford to do that. Not every lodge has the membership to do that. But certainly, I would say if you are interested if you are a Mason and you need help, it's very possible to receive help from your Masonic brothers. So yeah. Hello, Scott the Rock. Green beans. Yes, you get a lot of green beans, that's for sure. By the way, Michael, I am planning an event at the Masonic Temple probably in March or maybe April. As soon as I have more information, I will send it your way. Maybe get some brothers out. Probably be on a Saturday. Um, I mean, I might be almost homeless, infamous Rets. Give me a 99-cent super chat. Help me out. What era of Homo sapien is this? The best era. But yeah, I think certainly, and I've said it a million times, I've seen Masons step in and so often help out their brothers who may be struggling financially. Not just help out their brothers, by the way, but in doing so, helping out their brothers' families. I mean, when we as Freemasonry step in and help a brother, we're also helping that brother's family and making sure nobody ends up on the street, which also, by the way, helps the entire community because, keeping a brother in his home means we don't need to worry about shelter space or food bank use or social assistance. I'm a big believer that if possible, we should do our best to ensure that, we are using community resources before we look at government resources. Not that those aren't necessary and valuable, but I think there's other options as well. That's awesome, Scott the Rock. Your pops seems like a really cool dude. So I think that's awesome. I hope that tell him from me and from his Masonic brothers. Thank you for helping out. Kids with cancer research. I think that's awesome. Raphael Lopez, you're an entered apprentice? Welcome, Raphael. Thank you for being here and congratulations on being an entered apprentice. Enjoy it. Um, I would say, I think you have to be really enjoy the entered apprentice phase. A lot of people, I think, don't enjoy it for whatever reason. And as a consequence of that, like they want to rush through it. They want to go right from their entered apprentice to being a fellow craft, to being a master mason. Take your time, enjoy it. Believe me, it goes by quickly. Try to pay attention to the lessons, try to pay attention to what's being explained. Learn as much as you can before moving forward. And being an entered apprentice doesn't mean you can't still support your lodge. Remember that as well. Why aren't they enjoying? It's because they're in a rush to get to the next thing, right? It's because they're in a rush to get to the next um, like whatever it is, the next degree, the next office. That's a very common thing. It happens to a lot of people, right? At least what I've found historically is so often you end up with this situation where it's like, oh, I've joined, so therefore, like, I can't wait to get my next degree. I can't wait to move up. I can't wait to be a worshipful master. I think that happens in life a lot as well. People, when they join something, anything, they're just super excited. They want to get to the next thing. They don't want to do the work of being in that degree. It's Lucia, very often the next thing always seems attractive in the moment, right? That's the problem. Very often the next thing always seems to be the most attractive thing. I think that's a problem with life. It's kind of like the grass is always greener on the other side, right? Whatever's next. That is something actually gamification, which I've written about, discusses. If you're playing a video game, the idea of getting to the next level, the progress bar is always an incredibly attractive and incredibly addicting thing. And Freemasonry takes advantage of that, not in a nefarious way, but there's definitely this idea of, because it's progressive, you're always encouraging people, get your entered apprentice degree, get your fellow craft degree, get your whatever it is. You become an entered apprentice and a fellow craft, then a master mason, then you become a steward, then you become an officer, then you become a worshipful master, then a district deputy. And it can feel like, so long as you're always making progress, it's a good thing. But that's called um, the um, over justification effect, and it's a really dangerous thing. I know, Michael Moore, if you have any thoughts on this, but if you're just a Freemason and it's just about acquiring more ranks, more degrees, more titles, sooner or later you run out of things to acquire, and then that's when the crash out tends to happen. That's why, for example, very often after somebody becomes the worshipful master of a lodge, very often you see them slowly start to kind of fade away from attending the lodge, because if their purpose was to achieve as much as they could, right, then the danger of that is, well, after they become the worshipful master, like, what more is there? What exactly is Freemasonry? Freemasonry is a civic or community organization that evolved from stonemasonry guilds in the Middle Ages. So think of it as a social group or a civic group or community group. Just one that is incredibly old. It's been around for over 300 years. It's actually the oldest one in the world. And also one that, in my opinion anyways, has done more good for communities and the world than any other civic group. But of course, I would say that because it's my civic group. Um, right. And even beyond that, if it's just something, I will say though, one of the things I've noticed is people who are curious tend to be the most active and most regularly showing up within a Masonic lodge, which makes me think there's something to this idea of quote unquote being curious and interested more so than chasing titles. We do not. You should, Critter 3, that'd make it way more fun. So what is the goal? Every Freemason has to figure that out for himself. Every Freemason will have his own goals as it relates to, the craft, right? Some Freemasons will, for example, for me, one of the goals is to be closer to my family. For me, the goal of Freemasonry, or my grandfather is, the goal of Freemasonry ultimately, I've talked about this before, is to try to create better world and better communities through the application of brotherly love, relief, and truth. The idea of order out of chaos, not really. I mean, I'm not a big fan of that term. Certainly, you could argue within Freemasonry there's a desire to create more order, but I think the natural nature of Freemasonry is to instill a certain amount of order within people, which is a good thing. Um, but I think the world itself is already ordered, right? That's kind of the point um, of Freemasonry, right? It's that we already have an order within Freemasonry, or the universe has an order. Geometry expresses that order. Freemasonry recognizes that, at least in a metaphorical sense, and then we can apply that to our morals themselves, right? We can apply that to our morals. If the universe is regular and if the universe has order, then it makes sense that we as Freemasons try to mirror that order within our own lives. I don't know if I explained that as well as I could have, but that's what I'd say. Hello? It is. I mean, I've always thought that when it comes to Freemasonry, we're really onto something when it comes to this idea of like creating order, or not creating order, but recognizing order in geometry, or recognizing the value of geometry. It's one of the reasons why, for example, I have done several interviews with NASA scientists over the years, especially the ones involved with the Euclid space mission. Because you think about it, Euclid, a mathematician from what, 2000 something years ago, the fact that we have satellites in space named after him demonstrates the, never-ending value and the never-ending importance of Freemasonry of geometry, excuse me, in understanding the world around us. If that made any sense. One of my favorite examples of this is, I don't know if you guys ever seen the movie Lincoln. I've talked about this before, but Lincoln famously, when he was a lawyer, would travel around the country with a copy of Euclid's Elements. And he would read it at night. And in the movie Lincoln, there's a scene of him using the geometric principles of Euclid to make moral decisions, which I thought was a really cool scene. I do too. I mean, famously, this is, you see this, you see the math there. This is special theory of relativity. This is entropy. Don't try, Lucia. If you're trying to rank up quickly within Freemasonry, you're going to be disappointed. Your goal should not be to try to rank up. Your goal should be to try to be useful. And you can be incredibly useful within Freemasonry as an entered apprentice, as a fellow craft. You don't need to be an officer to be useful. Show up to the lodge early and vacuum, clean, sweep, take out the garbage. Show up to your lodges, show up to your events. Like, there's so many things you can do to be of help. Focus on that. Focus on being of benefit. Focus on being helpful. That's the most important thing, right? Becoming interested in titles or whatever else it is, that's not actually going to be that helpful. I have no idea what a golem is. I have no idea. I know nothing about Jewish folklore, but that seems vaguely anti-Semitic to me. I don't know why. I mean, I'm generally a fan of artificial intelligence. I'm a fan of technology. I've said this before, but it's technology that has resulted in longer lifespans as well as better quality of life. It's technology that allows me to live, period, right? For most of history, having no legs would have meant a very different life than the one I have now. Technology allows me to do this, to talk to you guys. So I think AI in some ways is just another advancement on the technological train, right? And every technological advancement, certain people would always say, well, it's different, right? I'm sure that when they first invented fire, people were saying like, "Oh, this is too far. This is too much," because look at how it can burn us and burn our crops or whatever it is, right? Like, I'm a technological, I don't know, optimist, if that makes sense. Okay, well, I mean, I don't know if AI was created to protect, say what you mean, necessarily, or created as a tool. But I think, like I said, I'm a technological optimist. So I tend to believe that technology will be of benefit. Maybe it's because I grew up on Star Trek and they had um, they had the computer and they had plenty of artificial intelligence. So maybe, I got too Star Trek pilled, whatever the term for that would be. But I tend to be more positive towards technology. Never had any call center jobs, but maybe soon. Yeah, I got big nostrils. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Shola, I can't pronounce the rest of your name. Let me know if you have any thoughts on Freemasonry. Interesting enough on the poll question. By the way, Mr. Keeps, welcome. Thank you for being here. Switching costs rate to move away from Freemasonry, about even. 41% say too high. 24% say too low, 35% say just right. The people who say too high, because I would have said personally too low, why do you think they're too high? What is it about leaving Freemasonry that you think has a high cost to it? Um, I have acidic blood, of course, but I don't like to talk about it. So, well, I'm not a biscuit, Doctor Who, but thank you for being here. Please hit like and subscribe. By the way, next week, I was thinking of talking about this movie called Sound of My Voice, which is a movie I really like. But it's a movie about cults and a lot of things. And if you're a regular viewer of this channel, you'll know a lot of things that I very often get on this channel is people asking the question, is Freemasonry a cult? Or even not so much asking the question, but accusing Freemasonry of being a cult. And so I thought it might be interesting to talk about what cults actually are, how they work, and why Freemasonry is not a cult. And one of my favorite movies from ages ago is called Sound of My Voice, and I've thought about maybe talking about that movie a little bit as well because it deserves way more love than it gets sometimes. Benefits of membership outweigh losing them. I think so. I definitely think so. Um, so in that case, I suppose the leaving cost would be just right, right? Because to me, but I guess the fun thing is seeing how people interpret the question. To me, if switching costs are too high, it means there's some type of shenanigans taking place, right? Like again, the example would be a software company charging you a fee if you stop using their products or services, especially an exorbitant fee, right? I would say in that case, the switching costs are too high, meaning that, they're trying to take advantage of the user. If the software company, let you leave without any attempts to keep you, without offering you a discount or made it so that anybody can use their products or services or their products and services are easily replicable without any issue, then I'd see the leaving costs are too low because they're going to go out of business if they make it too easy for people to leave their product or use another product, right? They should be, for example, if nothing else, trying to be a product that is the most convenient to use or the most user friendly. Because then there's still a switching cost. You're going to another product that's less convenient, less user friendly, but it's a quote unquote legitimate, if that's the right term, switching cost because it's a switching cost based on the quality of the product, not artificial, right? So that's another way to think about it. I think a artificial switching cost is one that is dictated not by market forces, but by a company unfairly tipping the scales. Again, saying to somebody like, if you stop using our product and services, we are going to charge you a fee. That's an inorganic switching cost in that it's not being dictated by the market or by the quality of the product. It's basically a form of extortion. Whereas if the software company just produces the best type of software, the most user-friendly, easy to use software, and it's a better type of software than any other company, that's a organic or market-based switching cost in that it's quality of the product, not artificial in its costs. And if it's just right, then again, they've reached that balance of they're producing a good product, they're producing a good service that assigns a cost to switching, but they're not putting their fingers on the scale, right? So if the product is bad, then the switching cost would be too low. If they're producing a product that's crummy, that has no benefit, that doesn't do a good job, they basically created a product with a very low switching cost because there's no reason to stick around to it. You might as well go somewhere else where it's better. They may try to get around that by charging you a fee, but again, they're cheating. That's the cheap way to do it. Instead of creating a good product, they're just punishing you for for using it. So if that makes any sense at all, right? So I would say for me personally, the leaving costs of Freemasonry are too low in that we're not doing a sufficient job in many cases to make our meetings interesting or beneficial. Thereby, people don't feel like they're paying a cost for leaving Freemasonry. The switching cost being too high would be if, for example, we in Freemasonry did something like, if you're going to leave the craft or demit, we're going to charge you a penalty, which we shouldn't be doing. That's artificially trying to create a switching cost. I hope that made any sense. I hope that made sense. Yes, I got a big nose. Please hit like and subscribe. I don't see why not a Scientologist can become a Freemason. What's wrong with my neck beard? I don't see why a Scientologist could not become a Freemason. To my knowledge, they believe in a supreme being. A supreme being, I should say. No, Masonic charges are not like torture. We do not torture people in Freemasonry. I do have to shave though. I haven't shaved all week. Is life accidental? I mean, I think life is I believe in evolution. So evolution is certainly accidental in that there's no plans. What is tar and what is my lower bracket? All right, I don't know what Girly Orbs is talking about. Well, it depends on like an example of Masonic charge might be so if you commit like a crime, right, in the community, whatever it is, obviously you should go to jail, you should be arrested, you should be, go to trial, whatever it is. However, by the same token, you may be brought up on Masonic charges for unmasonic conduct, because as a Mason, you are expected to comply with the laws of the country in which you live. You're expected to be a good citizen. Failing to do so could be considered an example of a Masonic charge. It could be, not dressing appropriately, because we in Freemasonry in Ontario have dress codes. So if you show up to lodge without a suit and tie, that could be a Masonic charge, although in fairness, most people are not going to bring that up on Masonic charges. But Freemasonry does not torture. It's no different than any group or organization, which very often will have bylaws. And if you don't comply with those bylaws, you may be, really, you can just be removed from the board or the corporation. Hello, Healing Through Energy. By the way, everybody watching this, please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And thank you, everybody, for being here. I truly appreciate it. and I hope everybody's doing well. So yeah, I do find the idea of switching costs to be fascinating. Again, I'll go through the three. Switching costs being too high, that would be an example of creating artificial costs to leaving a product or service. So in the tech world, it could be charging somebody a fee if they try to stop using a certain type of technology. So you want to stop using our software, or you want to deinstall or uninstall our software from the computer, you have to pay $500 fee. That's an example of a switching cost, in my opinion, being too high, in that it's artificial and it's not based on the quality of the software. It's just kind of like cheating almost. If the switching costs are too low, it would mean not just that there's no penalty to not using the product or service, the software, but the product is crummy and just doesn't work well and doesn't do a good job, in which case the switching costs are too low because there's no benefit. Like you get nothing but benefit by stopping using that software, using a different one instead. A switching cost that's just right would be the software, it doesn't penalize you or charge you an artificial fee for leaving, but the software is so good and of such value for the money you pay for it and is so user friendly that leaving would make no sense because it's such a good product. Any other product you choose to use instead is going to be of lesser quality and less user friendly. And that's the balance, right? So Freemasonry, it's the same thing. If, for example, we charged members a penalty for demitting or for leaving Freemasonry, that I think the penalty would be too high because it's an artificial switching cost. It's not based on the quality of what we're providing. It's just penalizing them, trying to force them to stay. If the Masonic meetings are boring and not interesting and they don't enjoy them and nobody enjoys Freemasonry in and of itself, then the switching cost would be too low in that you don't lose anything by switching or moving away from Freemasonry. If you enjoy Freemasonry, you enjoy the product, and you would miss leaving, but you're not penalized for leaving, then the switching cost is just right in that you're not being artificially punished or artificially charged for leaving Freemasonry. However, organically, you're enjoying the process and you're enjoying Freemasonry sufficiently to want to come out to it. Does that make any sense? Let me know, Michael Moore, if what I said made sense. Dream Seeker, let me know if that made sense to you as well. Jesus Christ, I'm sure that's true, Wascally. Please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button, or I'm sure that's true for you, right? I'm not necessarily a Christian myself. However, I have nothing but respect for Christians and Christianity. I know many Christian Freemasons. They're all good people and good dudes, and nothing but respect for them. And yeah, Freemasonry does not discriminate based on one's political beliefs or religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs, or pick your term. Go Canada. Go Manitoba, I should say. Alias, nobody else can see what you said, but I don't believe they are. Please hit like and subscribe. Awesome, Dream Seeker. Good. Even in some ways, I think it's more important, and I'm happier that I want to make sure you understand it, because as a non-member, it's important to me that what I'm saying here is understandable to non-members. By the way, Dream Seeker, I'm going to be organizing an event at the Masonic Temple on a weekend. Hopefully, you can come out to that one. And maybe that's a good time to bring the painting. I'll bring you the coin, which I've still got right here waiting for you. Could work really well. So maybe that's what we'll do. Sorry, Iron PR, Freemasons can be, Christians can be Freemasons. I've known many Christian Freemasons. In fact, what I would say is as a general rule, the majority of Masons I've met in my life are Christians. In a couple cases, even pastors. So deal with that, if you will. Iron PR, please hit the like button and the subscribe button. To everybody watching this, please hit like, please hit subscribe. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. I think, again, Brother Michael Moore, I don't know if you've ever read or you've heard me talk about it, the Anderson Constitution. I think it has, I mean, Freemasons don't put on dresses, but okay. The Anderson Constitution has my favorite section regarding religious tolerance. It says concerning God and religion. Critter 3, I'm going to take your question seriously and answer it seriously. Yes, animals can join Freemasonry. Um, when I say that, I'm referring to guide dogs and service animals. I have been to a few lodges where a brother or a brethren uses a service dog or a guide dog, and it's really cool because if, for example, I've seen it where as the Mason moves up in offices and, becomes a steward, becomes a deacon, becomes an inner guard, becomes a warden, they actually invest both the Mason with a collar and apron, and they invest his service animal with a collar and apron as well. So I think it's really cool. I did a podcast episode about that once upon a time. Illuminati doesn't exist. Nobody. Please hit like and subscribe. So I've been a Freemason for 20 years, Iron P, approximately 20 years. I've traveled all around the world. I've been to over 1,000 Masonic events. Never met a satanic Freemason. And I've never met an atheist Freemason either, because to be a Freemason, you must believe in a supreme being. Now, there are liberal orders of Freemasonry, but they're usually not recognized. I have no issue with them. I mean, do you, and nothing but respect for the liberal orders of Freemasonry. I've met some of them. They're really cool dudes, but I don't attend their lodges. No specific topic, Texas Freemason. We're just hanging out. I mean, I don't know enough about Scientology to say, but the Masons are not like Scientology, because Scientology is a religious organization. Freemasonry is a civic organization. Scientology, exists in a religious space. Freemasonry exists in a civic or community space. So they occupy different spaces. Now, in terms of in the same way the Mormon Church kind of borrowed some structures from Freemasonry, I mean, is it possible that Scientology did the same thing? I have no idea. I've never been to Scientologist church, so I have no clue. What does that mean, Iron P? What does it mean when Freemasons say that? And by the way, not every Freemason says that. Albert Pike said that. The Anderson Constitution said that. But what does it mean when we say true religion? What does it actually mean? I know what it means, but I'm asking you if you know what that means, because that's one of the great misconceptions. Welcome, Texas Freemason. Welcome, Courtney. So yesterday I was talking on another stream, and with Smokey the Clown, and he was saying we should do a stream where you join, I join, Smokey joins. We get everybody to join and hang out on the same time. No, we're not talking Lucifer, because Lucifer is not part of Freemasonry, despite what Albert Pike may say. And nor is it Satan. But once again, Iron, I'm going to ask you one more time. What does it mean when Albert Pike or the Anderson Constitutions talks about the true religion? What does that actually mean? I'll tell you what it means in a second, but I want to see your opinion on it first. Right now, not really, Lucia, but I'm working on it. You can get jobs related to Freemasonry. For example, you can be in charge of a Masonic building, which can sometimes be a full-time job. Well, you did not. You're incorrect. So here's what it means. It means two different things, or two different kind of ways to understand it. First, the idea of something being a religion, it can mean spiritually, which is how most people take it. However, it can also mean in a more colloquial sense. For example, I once went to a scary movie convention because I love horror movies, and somebody had a T-shirt that said, scary movies or horror movies are my religion. Now, he didn't mean literally it's his religion. He didn't mean he prays to scary movies or, he's taking communion with Freddy Krueger. He meant it's a religion and it's something he does regularly at set times in a pattern. In the same way, people will say, I wash my car religiously, I exercise religiously. It's not a religion in a spiritual sense. It's not a religion in that sense. It's using the term colloquially to define doing something with regularity and with dedication. But you couldn't write to the government and say, I'm part of the church of horror movies, therefore I don't have to pay taxes. That's not how that works. It's not a religion in a spiritual sense or religion for government purposes. And I bet you, Iron, I bet you have many times, or maybe not, but I've used it many times, used the term religiously, or my religion in a colloquial sense. I've heard people say football is their religion. I've heard people say, health is their religion. It's not literally spiritual. It's a colloquial phrase. However, the bigger thing you need to understand when you talk about the idea of the, one true religion, Freemasonry evolved from stonemasonry. It evolved from stonemasons and stone Masonic guilds. So this is the second reason, Iron P. Stonemasons had to work around the world. I mean, at the time, Europe primarily, right? But also Asia, the Middle East, Africa. They had to go around the world to ply their trade, to work on stone buildings, to earn a living. They had to work with people of different religions and different beliefs and different understandings, right? They could not be expected. If you're going to the Middle East and you're going to be working with Muslim stonemasons and in a Muslim area, you can't be going there telling everybody your religion is wrong, your religion is bullshit, my religion is correct. If you happen to be a Christian, you're not going to get hired, nor should you. Right? And so there was this understanding, and you see this even in the Regius poem, there was this understanding that, and I love it, by the way, that, look, you have to be expected to work with people of different faiths and different beliefs, but you can all work together. When Freemasonry developed out of stonemasonry, there was this same idea, right? There was this same idea that we're going to work with people and have people joining of different religions, different faiths, and each one should be respected. It's not our place to tell anybody who is correct and who is incorrect in their religious beliefs. If they come to our church, we can tell them that. If I'm a Christian Freemason and a Muslim comes to my church, I can tell him, this church represents the true religion because that's what you believe. But I can't tell him that outside of the church. I can't tell him what he is to believe, right? As they note here in the Charges of Freemason, which I love, a Mason is obliged by his tenure to obey the moral law. And if he rightly understands the art, he will never be a stupid atheist nor a irreligious libertine. But through ancient times, Masons were charged in every country to be of the religion of that country or nation, whatever it was. Yet 'tis now thought more expedient to oblige them to that religion in which all men agree, the one true religion, the religion in which all men agree, leaving their particular opinions to themselves. That is, to be good men and true, and men of honor and honesty, by whatever denominations or persuasions they may be distinguished, whereby Masonry becomes the center of union and the means of conciliating friendship among persons that must have remained at a perpetual distance. I love that section. I think it's my favorite section ever written about religious tolerance. What it's saying is you can be Christian and that's your religion. I can be Muslim, I can be Jewish, I can be Hindu, Sikh, indigenous. We're not here to judge or concerned with other people's religious beliefs. We will be the religion, not in a spiritual sense, but the religion to which all men agree, which is we will ask you to be a good man and true and honorable. And whatever your particular religious opinion is, that is for the religious space. Freemasonry is not of the religious space. Freemasonry is of the civic space. So it's not the one true religion in that we're not telling anybody what to worship. We're not telling anybody how to worship. We're not telling anybody making any promises of salvation nor threats of damnation. We're not getting out of taxes through religion. Rather, we are saying your particular opinions on religion are yours. They should be held dear. They should be held, honestly. And you should go to your church, your mosque, your sharing circle, your synagogue. You should pray. Those are your particular religious opinions, and more power to you. We, in this space, will simply say we are all honorable and good men and conciliate friendship among persons that must have remained at a perpetual distance. Does that make any sense? Michael Moore, let me know if that made sense to you, if what I said made sense. But yeah, I think every Mason should read, honestly, Iron P. I think you should, even if you don't want to be a Mason, you should maybe read Concerning God and Religion from the Anderson Constitution. It sounds to me like you're being pretty judgmental of religions that aren't yours, which I don't think is a very healthy thing. I think, again, and this is something that really does concern me a lot in society. I don't know, Michael Moore, if you've seen, and Dream Seeker, and anybody who's been on this stream regular, but I once got a question from somebody who said, how can you be part of a group where different religions get along? Or how can different religions work together within the same group? And the fact that people are asking that question, right, really does concern me, because it tells me, I think in some ways we've devolved a little bit in society. When I was growing up, it was understood that you can be a Christian, you can be a Muslim, you can be a Jewish person, you can be whatever, and we can get along. We can work together in civic society. The fact that people now are acting like you can't concerns me quite a bit. I mean, I can't speak to the accuracy of religious texts because I'm not a religious person. I believe in a supreme being. I don't believe in necessarily one's, a particular religion. I guess what I'd say is we're going to find out if your Bible is accurate or how it's accurate, in the next life. For right now, I'm trying my best to live a good life here. Whether I succeed or not, I have no idea. I mean, Freemasons believe in good and evil. I believe in good and evil, and I'm a Freemason. I don't know where you're getting that from, but that's a bunch of baloney. What I would say, here's my view on that. This is one of my favorite stories. Yes, I agree with Texas on that. This is one of my favorite stories. I believe it was a Catholic priest told me this story, which I thought I really liked it. But this Catholic priest or father, I forget the term, went out to a playground and there were a bunch of young boys all playing soccer. And he asked the young, the kids, he said, if I told you that Jesus was coming back in the next hour, what would you all do? And one of the boys said, I would go and I would ask everybody I need to ask for forgiveness. And I would pray to God for forgiveness. Another boy said, I would forgive everybody that I've yet to forgive. Somebody else said, I would go and tell my family that I love them. Somebody else said, I would go and tell those, who don't believe, I try one more chance to get them to believe. But the last, young boy who was playing soccer said, I would keep playing soccer. And the father asked him, why would he keep playing soccer? And he said, because I've already forgiven those I need to forgive. I've already asked for forgiveness. I've already told everybody that I love them. I've already done my best to spread the word as I understand it, et cetera, et cetera. And that is in some ways, and not in a religious sense, how I try to live my life. In that, knock on wood, I don't want to, but if I were to die in the next hour, I would die knowing that I've done all I can to try to build a better world here on earth, and I left it all on the field. Um, right? And so every day I try to think, if I were to go today, could I say before I left, and who knows what comes next, that I did my best, I did what I thought I could to make the world a better place. And then I'll let whatever happens to me afterwards happen to me afterwards. Um, it is Striker. Welcome, Striker. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. That's true. I mean, hey, stone matters. If ever there was a story or metaphor that demonstrated how important stone work is, it's the Three Little Pigs. Thomas McVie, your dad. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the term high Mason. I understand maybe what you're trying to say by it, but in Freemasonry, you don't want to think about higher or lower ranks. But Thomas McVie, welcome. Thank you for being here. Please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe element. Let's like and subscribe buttons. And I really do appreciate you being here very much. So yeah, I'm going to read it one more time because I love it so much. And I think it's the best explanation for when Albert Pike talks about the true religion, or when, the Anderson Constitution, or even I've said, I go to my Masonic meetings religiously, right? A Mason is obliged by his tenure to obey the moral law, and if he rightly understands the art, he will never be a stupid atheist nor an irreligious libertine. But though in ancient times Masons were charged in every country to be of the religion of that country or nation, whatever it was, yet 'tis now thought more expedient to oblige them to that religion in which all men agree, leaving their particular opinions to themselves. That is, to be good men and true, or men of honor and honesty, by whatever denominations or persuasions they may be distinguished, whereby Masonry becomes the center of the union and the means of conciliating true friendship among persons that must have remained at perpetual distance. I love the idea of conciliating true friendship among persons that would have remained at perpetual distance due to differences in religious beliefs, differences in political beliefs, differences in ethnicities, differences in language. By the way, Section 2, a Mason is a peaceable subject to the civil powers wherever he resides or works, and is never to be concerned in plots and conspiracies against the peace and welfare of the nation, nor to behave himself undutifully to inferior magistrates. For, as Masonry has always been injured by war, bloodshed, and confusion, so ancient kings and princes have been much disposed to encourage the craftsmen because of their peacefulness and loyalty, whereby they practically answered the calls of their adversaries, promoted the honor of the fraternity. So if a brother should be a rebel against the state, he is not to be countenanced in his rebellion, however he may be pitied as an unhappy man. And if convicted of no other crime through the loyal brotherhood, must not to disown his rebellion. So anybody who says Freemasons are anti-government or civil authority, since 1723, we've been instructed to not be. So keep that in mind as well. Hello, Pahadi. Thank you for being here. I hope you're doing well. Please hit that like and subscribe button. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it, and I hope everybody's doing very well. Well, then I appreciate you being here, Rodolph. I guess I got a tedious live feed. What can I say? I hope you're doing well. And I hope everybody's going to be having an excellent, excellent weekend. I'm not Christian myself, Jim Rat. But I know many Christian Freemasons think they're all awesome people. Christianity's done a lot of great things for the world. There's no denying it. I'm just not a Christian myself. I don't think religion holds us back or holds anything back. I think individuals with foolish interpretations of religion can hold it back, but I wouldn't blame religion for holding people back. I try to be optimistic, though it can be hard with what you see in the news. But who knows? I think we have to do our best to try to be as optimistic as we can. What's the term? Pessimistic in intellect, optimistic in the heart. Um, well, then you don't have to be here, the show of life. Mother Michael Moore says it as well. And again, that's not a new thing. That's existed for what, over 300 years at this point, 303 years. It's becoming more and more successful. Hello, Chicken Banana. Please like and subscribe. It's becoming more successful. By the way, interestingly enough, do you think the switching costs related to moving from Freemasonry are too high is at 50%, too low is at 17%, just right is at 33%? So there you go. I thought that was very interesting, that people are actually going with too high. It's funny because if the switching costs were too high, you would think that we would not be seeing the decline in membership as we're seeing now. So interesting. I definitely did not expect to get that answer. Though it's good because whenever you get an answer you did not expect in an experiment or in a poll, that's usually a good sign because it means there's something else that you need to consider or something, some other paradigm or some other perspective. Hello, Striker Van Kelly. Well, again, it's not a one religion in a religious, like it's not one true religion in the sense of we have a being or entity which we worship. Rather, it's the one true religion in that it welcomes men of all different faiths and beliefs under the most basic to be a good man and true. Um, I would say that as well, Brother Michael Moore. You're absolutely correct. Freemasonry does all of those things. That's one of the main reasons why it's not a cult, or why I'm always pointing out it's not a cult, right? What a cult does is it tries to separate you from others. It tries to separate you from those around you. And it says, like, okay, you have to be, you're not encouraged to delve deeper into your faith. You're not encouraged to delve deeper into your family or your work. Everything you do has to be dedicated to Freemasonry or to the cult, excuse me. What Freemasonry says is, yes, Freemasonry is important, the lodge is important, but it's not more important than your family. It's not more important than your than your deity. It's not more important than your work. Now, whether I wish Freemasonry did sometimes, that's why, for example, cults, I would argue cults have too high switching costs because they will punish you in a variety of ways, or they will make you feel bad or threaten you if you try to leave them. That's an example of a too high switching cost. It's why, for example, a lot of times it's so hard for people to leave cults because of the manipulation and abuse. But even though, yeah, they get people to stay with them, it's still not a good way to do it. It's still not a good thing, right? So, no, I mean, you would not have a funeral as a Freemason before you die. That would defeat the point of a funeral. Yeah, there's valleys, there's chapters, there's grottos. I mean, I always say use the term lodge just in general. That's a good place to start. Well, Eddie, if you want to send me an email, the way you do so is, hold on just one sec. info@squareandcompass.ca. And that's the best way to contact me via email. Thank you, Texas Freemason. That's incredibly kind of you. Oh, yes, we're freezing cold everywhere. When I got, I'm not everywhere, but a lot of places. When I got off, I was in Chicago. Believe me, when I got off the bus from Chicago to Detroit at 6 in the morning, holy cow! I thought I was going to literally just freeze in place. It was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. Um, Freemason, it's going well. And Eddie, yeah, I appreciate that. I mean, I'll always appreciate people looking into graphic designs for me. That's incredibly kind of you. So thank you so much. By the way, if you are in Canada, Tim Hortons, today, tomorrow, and February 1st, has its Special Olympics donuts. So if you purchase a Special Olympics donut right now, you can get, I think all the proceeds go to support the Special Olympics. So 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Holy cow. Thomas, welcome. Thank you for being here. By the way, speaking of cults, next week, one thing I was planning to talk about is do a review of the movie. Do a review of the movie Sound of My Voice. I don't know if anybody's ever seen it. It's a great movie. I really liked it. But it deals with cults. And I think it's worth exploring it because the question of is Freemasonry a cult or not, I think it's worth exploring that in more detail. Like, what do people mean by that? What does it mean to be a cult? I think that stuff's really important. And we need to spend more time thinking about it. Um, because I think even a lot of Masons, I think a lot of Masons, when they get the question, is Freemasonry a cult? They know it's not, but they don't necessarily understand why it's not a cult or what makes a cult versus a group. They just know it's not because they know about Patty Hearst or something. But it's worth, I think it's worth 100% actually talking about it in more detail. Plus, I just love the movie Sound of My Voice. So um, I think because it's a great movie that doesn't get the love it deserves. For the time being, though, we're just going to hang out, wait to see who wants to chat. Again, any thoughts on Freemasonry, positive, negative, or neutral, let me know. I'm just going to hang out for a bit, see who wants to join. On these Fridays, I don't have any specific topics. I was thinking about doing some stuff on the weekend. Sometimes I do streams on the weekend, sometimes I don't. I have a few ideas, so yes, but I will take this weather, Michael Moore, because yes, it's freezing. However, it's sunny and bright outside. And as somebody who absolutely hates snow because it's a pain in the ass in the wheelchair, I will gladly take this weather, 1,000,000%. If it's cold, but the snow is kind of going away, then more power to it. So, heat wave conditions in Australia. Are you? Oh my gosh, Striker, are you in Australia right now? By the way, Striker, I don't know if you've hit the like and subscribe button yet, but if you haven't, please do so. I'd very much appreciate it. Um, there's a lot of really cool Masonic lodges in a lot of really cool Masonic lodges in and Masonic buildings in Australia. I'd love to visit it, but it's crazy far. No windows. Okay, well, I can assure you, I'm looking at my window right now. It is sunny and bright. It's cold, but it's sunny and bright. So I am not upset about that at all. Um, we don't know when. Not a group chat, but a live stream where everybody, can join. Or not everybody, but all of like the longtime supporters of the channel. So you, Smokey the Clown, me, Texas Freemason, Courtney, Smokey the Clown, Mr. Keeps. Get all of you guys to join and be part of it. I think it'd be really fun. I just have to figure out how best to do it because you can't do it through the YouTube app, to my knowledge. So, um, but yeah, I'm gonna figure it out because I think it'd be really, really fun. Um, we could do it through Zoom, and Michael Moore, you could join as well if you wanted. I should have mentioned you as well. It would have been awesome to have you join it also. Maybe sometime in February. I could also even do a members exclusive chat. I've done that in the past. Actually, Texas was on one of them through Patreon. So that could be really fun to do as well, to do a members exclusive Patreon live stream. Um, yeah, it could be really good and really fun. We'll have to figure out, and YouTube members as well for Brother Michael Moore and other YouTube members. We'll have to figure out the best way to do it, but it could be really, really fun and really enjoyable. So I'll see what we can do. That would be a really good idea. We'd have to pick some different topics, right? We'd have to figure out the best kind of topics to do, but I'm sure we could think of a couple. Um, and that would be really fun also. We are just hanging out here, though. What would be some interesting topics? We could be, again, Masonic history seems to be. I suppose what I would do is probably make a poll question for members exclusively, and just say, what type of topics do you want to see on the roundtable? Um, Roach, well, what do you think when you hear the term switching costs? What do you think that means? If you had to guess, because I'm kind of curious when people hear that term, what they think it might mean. Oh, you're gonna get, I mean, talk about dealing with challenge. Oh my gosh. That's when you start to deal with, for example, that you could get, people breaking their computer screens out of anger. By the way, Roach, please hit like and subscribe. I'd very much appreciate it. For the record, for me, without question, it's fried. That's the best way. Okay, Roach, you're not that far off with it, right? Excuse me, John Terry, you're not that far off as well. Um, I think it's inclusivity within a cult. You're not wrong, right? The cults are insular. They do isolate individuals. Freemasonry does not. So a switching cost is any cost associated with changing or leaving something, whether it be a platform, whether it be a group, an organization, whether it be moving houses, right? Switching from one residence to another, there's costs associated with that. Now, a cost that is too high would be, in my opinion, an artificial switching cost. So, for example, I'm going to use the example of computer software. Let's imagine I'm using a certain type of computer software, and if I want to switch and use a different software, I'm charged a penalty for switching. They say if you want to stop using our software or uninstall it, or deinstall it from your computer, you have to pay $500 penalty. That's an example of a switching cost that is too high in that it's unfair. It's not based on the actual value of the product you're using. It's just trying to punish you to keep you from switching. When it comes to software, again, if the switching cost is too low, maybe the product or service or the software is just really, really crummy. It's not good. It's hard to use. It's not user friendly. It doesn't do the job that it's assigned. And on top of that, there's no penalty for leaving. They don't charge you anything. Then the switching cost is too low in that the company will go out of business because there's no benefit. There's no cost to leaving, right? The cost is so incredibly low. You might as well switch and stop using that service. If, and when a switching cost is just right, it's when the costs associated with switching are not based on anything artificial, such as a penalty for leaving, but is based on the quality of the product or service or the software. So in the software example, you know, this product, this software I'm using is easy to use, it's convenient, it works well. There's no other software that will work this well and this convenient. So the switching cost is just right in that you're not choosing to remain because you're being punished unfairly or because you're being, charged a fee or because antitrust is not being enforced and this company has a monopoly and are controlling what others do. Rather, it's the product, it's the quality and the service that you're getting. It's organic switching costs, right? Within Freemasonry, a cult we could use, to use a cult, it's the same thing. In cults, the switching costs are too high because they isolate you, they take you away from your family, they take you away from your friends, they manipulate you, and as a consequence, there is a massive amount of emotional turmoil that is related to the switching costs, right? Like, that's why cult deprogramming is so hard because the switching costs are too high. They're bad, right? It's like we'll manipulate you and emotionally abuse you and isolate you through this cult until you get to the point where you can't leave. That's the switching cost is too high in a cult. I would argue, for me personally, switching costs in Freemasonry are too low. In that very often we don't provide decent enough experiences. I'm speaking in general, like Freemasonry as a whole, even globally. We oftentimes don't provide enough incentives, enough enjoyment, enough fun, enough interest, enough whatever it is to encourage Masons to stay, which makes the switching cost too low. It's like providing a not great product or not great service. You basically set the switching cost very low. You're encouraging people to move away from that and find something somewhere else. A switching cost in Freemasonry that's just right would be we don't punish people for leaving. We don't charge people money for leaving. We don't emotionally abuse them for leaving. Obviously, none of that stuff is right. That's too high. But at the same time, we provide them with a valuable service, a valuable product, a valuable experience that the cost of missing out on those experiences is not something they want to have happen. And so they choose to remain active. John Terry, let me ask you, John Terry, by the way, show me your dishwasher, show me with the like and subscribe button. Have you seen Sound of My Voice? Because it's an incredible movie about cults. I love that movie. I'm going to talk about it next stream, I think. But have you seen that movie yourself? And if so, what did you think of it? We don't. No, we don't. And we shouldn't. That would be an example of a switching cost being too high if we start to blacklist people. That's trying to keep them in by threat, not by, organic means. John Terry, if you enjoy cult movies, my suggestion for you would be watch Sound of My Voice. It's a movie from 2011, starring Britt Marling. She was in Another Earth. It's a great movie. If you watch it, I hope you'll let me know what you think of it. Everybody hanging out here, maybe we'll do a midnight movie watch along next meeting. I hope that you'll consider. Doing so. We aren't paid, no, but I'm trying to work on that. I'm hoping to take this, stream and turn my passion for Freemasonry into profession, because I think we have to find a way to turn our passion for Freemasonry into profession if we're going to be successful. Most of us operative Masons, we aren't paid. That is true. So it's Sound of My Voice, 2011. Do you know how to contact me, John Terry, outside of this stream? Like, can you send me an email? Can you send me a message through Facebook? I'd very much appreciate it if you could, or if you did. That would be very, very kind of you. And Brother Michael Moore, let me know just in general, what do you think of my explanation of switching costs? Do you think it makes sense? And by the way, some of this, the switching costs, are completely out of my control or out of Freemasons' control. For example, in the 1920s and the 1950s, and then I hope you'll contact me through maybe social media like Instagram. Like in the 1920s through the 1950s, if you wanted to meet with your Masonic brother, learn how he's doing, keep up to date with his life, you had to see him in person. And so the Masonic Lodge was just the time that you would do so, right? There was like no other time that you could do so, because you couldn't send them an email, you couldn't send them into social media, see how they're doing. You couldn't text them. You could send them a letter, but that might be expensive. You had to go to the Masonic Lodge and visit them in person. Um, and so a switching cost to moving away from Freemasonry was it's becomes so much more difficult to keep up to date with what's happening with your Masonic brothers. Um, Unfortunately, or fortunately, you can argue both ways, we now have ubiquitous social media, which means for most Masons, they can know what's happening in their brothers' lives without needing to go to lodge. So that switching cost has just gone away. Now you don't know as much, right? You don't know as much, um, because again, you don't even so even if somebody says I'm fine in a Facebook message, you don't see their face, you don't hear the inflection, you don't hear the tone, versus if you hear somebody say I'm fine as it relates to, like, if you see them in person, you can know if they're fine or not fine. So you don't get as much of a connection, but for a lot of people, you can still keep up to date. You can know, hey, did their wife give birth, whatever it is, without needing to see them face to face. So that's something to keep in mind. Um, the topic of the movie, John Terry, Sound of My Voice, it's like a cult movie. It's about a couple of reporters who, I don't think this is spoilers, a couple of reporters who join a cult. Well, they're amateur reporters. They're not, paid. Thank you, Dream Seeker. They're amateur reporters, but they joined this cult, and the leader of the cult, who's played by Britt Marling, she claims to be from the future, and she claims to be preparing her followers for a future in which there's been some type of cataclysmic event, a nuclear holocaust, or some type of nuclear war, and she has come back in time to try and prepare them for whatever this future is going to be, her and her followers. So it's sci-fi, but it's about a cult. It's really, really good. I'd be curious to know what you think of the ending, because it's ambiguous. Now, it was supposed to be apparently a sequel. There's supposed to be two other movies. It's supposed to be a trilogy. Because I like that movie so much, part of me, would love to see the sequels. But another part of me would very much kind of did really like the way it ended already. So I don't know if I want to see a sequel, right? Like, part of me is saying I'd rather just, I don't know, I'd rather just have it left the way it did. I think it was a good ending. Um, yes, hit that like and subscribe button. I'd very much appreciate it. Not a ton of subscribers this stream. That's okay, by the way. We've had a ton of super chats. It's been really fun. But not a ton of subs this stream. So let's see if we can get that up a little bit. By the way, I've got a ton of work to do, so I'm going to have to end this stream with the 2-hour mark in. I'm considering a couple fun things this weekend, though. So I'll let you guys know how they go and what they are. Um, and it should be a lot of fun. But I gotta make a bunch of phone calls. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for all of the support and the help. I greatly, greatly appreciate it. Just gonna wait to see. Adios. Nice. Yeah, and then jump back on and let me know. And like I said, I might do a movie watch along. The problem is I cannot find it streaming anywhere, like without renting it. You have to pay for it. And whenever I try to do movie watch alongs, I try to pick movies that are easily findable via social media, or sorry, via streaming services, especially free social media services like Tubi or Pluto or whatever it is, because I don't want people having to pay money to do a watch along with me. Having said that, we'll see, I guess. If I can find something, that would be, find something that is provides a free service to watch it, a legitimate free service, then that's what I'll do. And that's my personal YouTube channel, youtube.com/Cameron Adamson. The other thing I was thinking of doing is trying to play, like stream me playing Geodash live, Geometry Dash, because as a Freemason, I should love geometry, which I do. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun to play Geometry Dash live and just see how far I can make it. I don't know if anybody would be interested in watching me play Geometry Dash. But I think it could be a lot of fun, and we can hang out together. Striker, thanks. What is one thing you maybe learned from this stream, if you don't mind my asking? Like, what's one thing that you think you learned that you can take with you and apply to other areas of your life? Or at least to Freemasonry, something that you learned. I'd love to know. Because, and is there anything you want to learn, Striker Van Kelly, by the way? Is there anything that you would want to learn from, you would hope to learn? Because that's absolutely, I guess one of my goals is to, like, what do you want to know? This could be kind of fun to do a Geometry Dash. Oh no. Um, I'm gonna wait a couple more minutes, see who else jumps in and says hello. I do got a ton of work to do, so I have to end this stream early, but let's see if anybody jumps in to say hi. And would you also, Striker Van Kelly, I think that's how you pronounce it, would you be interested in checking out my other YouTube channels, youtube.com/Cameron Adamson, etc., etc.? Show me your dishwasher. I do. Actually, somebody brought up a good point. John Terry, ain't that an early termination fee? John Terry, if you're still there, in some ways it is, John Terry. Like, you're not wrong. That's one of the questions. If you're paying, let's say, $500 a year to be a Freemason and you choose to leave early, or you choose to demit through the lodge, you don't actually get the money back. But you can sub. How do you sub on Geodash? How do you do that? I was thinking of doing a Geodash like watch along of me playing it because I should love geometry. Like, that's the question, right? And that's the question a lot of people will ask or will say that's a cost, right? That's a cost to um, leaving Freemasonry. Is you basically paid the money up front. You might as well get all of everything out of it that you can. Major or notable contributions made to society, arts, humanity by Freemasons, notable Freemasons in history, charitable works. Okay, that sounds awesome, Striker. I will keep all of those in mind. Some of those I have discussed in the past, but I can go over them again because there's been so many that I haven't talked about. So that sounds awesome. I will absolutely do my best to touch on those topics. I'll give you one example. Notable Masons in history: Ben Franklin, George Washington, Voltaire, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Harry Truman, um, Brad Paisley, celebrity, 15 Masonic presidents: John A. Macdonald, Jose Rizal, Garibaldi, out of Italy, Bolivar out of Venezuela. That's just a few. It's fascinating, but it would be fun to maybe pick one and go through each one and be like, this is their Masonic journey, as well as this is what they contributed. This is why they're notable. Colonel Sanders, Dave Thomas, um, they were both Freemasons and actually good friends. And supposedly Dave Thomas uh, helped out Colonel Sanders at a couple different points as he was developing his restaurants. I believe they both were Freemasons at the same time, or knew that each other were Freemasons. At least I think that is the case. Masons are from Mars. Wasn't there a book called like Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus or something? I feel like that was a huge book in the 90s, but I can't remember it now. Or Masons are from here on Earth. Let's not add any conspiracy fire or conspiracy theories. Masons are from here on Earth, trying to make our communities a better place. Now, if Elon Musk gets his way, and I think this would be really cool for the record, then maybe one day we will have a Masonic lodge on Mars. I would think that would be so cool. I'm part of a Masonic lodge called Tranquility Lodge 2000, which is named after the Tranquility Valley and is named for it was named in honor of Buzz Aldrin, the second man to ever land on the moon. I would love one day to have a Masonic meeting on a planet outside of Earth. I think that would be incredible. And maybe I'd get to take part in it. Who knows? But that'd be really, really fun. And yeah, I would say I am very much hoping that we in Freemasonry can absolutely one day have a meeting on Mars. I would go for sure. Hello, Gooey. Thank you for being here. No worries, slow boy. You do you. I mean, honestly, yes. Not a lodge. Technically, Lucia, we're going to get very technical at the moment. Technically, it's not possible to live in a lodge because a Masonic lodge is it's not a physical place. It's a group of people. Like it's the way I always describe it is you need to think of a Masonic lodge like a sports team. So, for example, you couldn't live in the Detroit Lions. It's the team, right? However, it is absolutely the case that many Masonic buildings over history, Masonic Hall, Masonic temples, very often have had, in some cases, these were known and licensed, in some cases, not so much, but have had, for example, granny suites. I've been to a couple Masonic buildings where they had a caretaker that lived in an apartment in the building, and he would be responsible for keeping things clean and showing up and checking the security. So it has happened. There was a lodge in the Philippines that had actually spaces in the back for brethren who were visiting to stay there. while they were traveling for Masonic events, so they did not have to get a hotel. So yeah, it has happened. Um, but yeah, the lodge itself, I mean, the way I would describe it is the lodge is like the group of people. The so the lodge is the group of people, but the Masonic hall or building or temple is where you meet. So me saying I'm a member of Windsor Lodge 403 and I meet at the Windsor Masonic Temple is like me saying I am a member of the Detroit Lions and we play at Ford Field. One is the group of people which can meet at multiple locations. The other is the building itself, which is kind of their home base of operations. If that made any sense, let me know if it did. If it didn't, I'll do my best to explain once again. Australius, please hit the like and subscribe button. Thank you for being here. I've really enjoyed, like I said, I've known a few different Masonic buildings that have granny suites, places for Masons to stay. And usually it's like a caregiver, or not caregiver, but a live-in caretaker type of idea. Although sometimes, it may be if a brother's struggling financially and needs a place to stay, a lodge may say, okay, you can stay in the granny suite while we try to find you help you with your rent or get you back on your feet. I know some churches here, even in Windsor, do that as well, where they have apartments and spaces available for people who maybe are struggling and need a place to stay. Again, Freemasonry is not a religion, it's not a church, but sometimes community groups and organizations, be they religious or civil, will do the same thing. Yes, I'm Neanderthal Man. How's it going, Spirit? Thank you for being here. Please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you, as always. I hope you're having an excellent day. I mean, I don't always do live. I do a lot of lives, but if you care about something, you find the time. That's my opinion, for whatever it's worth. If you care about something, you absolutely will find the time. I care about doing my lives, so I find the time. I care about my, Freemasonry, so I find the time for that as well. And it's something I very much enjoy. That's the other thing too. I enjoy doing it, right? If you enjoy doing something, it's easier to find the time. I don't think all the mottos talk about the Lord. I mean, one of the most common mottos I hear is to make good men better, which does not mention either the Lord or a Lord. I mean, I'm trying to think if I can actually think of any Masonic mottos that actually do represent or do mention the Lord. But you want to be very careful because, again, the thing to remember sometimes that people forget when you talk about Freemasonry is just because one particular organization or group that falls under a Masonic umbrella, has a motto, that doesn't mean it reflects all of Freemasonry. You need to be really careful and remember that because it's very easy for people to start to argue that, oh, this group said this, therefore it reflects all of Freemasonry. It doesn't. Even this channel, I'm very careful to mention on my channel, right, that my opinions are my own opinions. I don't speak for anybody who's other than myself. There are many Masons who may disagree with me and may disagree with my opinions on the craft, which is great. It makes things way more interesting. If every Mason agreed, Freemasonry would get very boring very quickly. Although, I suppose some would say being a little bit boring isn't the worst thing. What's the old expression? The Chinese proverb, the Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. Nice. We will not have rum. We do not have cigars. That's not what Freemasonry is all about. Nice. Very cool, Striker. I would love to visit New Zealand. I've got a few people from New Zealand on this stream over the years, over the last few months especially. It sounds like a beautiful place. One thing I love is Taskmaster New Zealand, but getting to visit a Masonic lodge in New Zealand would be really cool. Maybe one day I'll get the chance. Who knows? Hello, Delusory. If you want to help me get the chance, consider doing a super chat. Just 99 cents helps out big time. Um, what is a majoris? Is that like the indigenous population within New Zealand? I'm out of 5 Masonic lodges because I'm a sucker for punishment. But my mother lodge is Windsor Lodge, number 403, Windsor, Ontario, Canada. I've been a Mason for almost 20 years. I joined in 2007. So it's crazy to think how long it's been. But yeah, I'm grateful to be a Freemason. I'm grateful for all of the work and efforts. Maori, not Majoris. I'm the worst at pronouncing things. Maori. So is that the indigenous population within New Zealand? Um, I've talked a little bit about indigenous populations here in Canada, as well as the United States and their connections to Freemasonry, which is fascinating. In many cases, it was one of the few groups and organizations early on that would allow for, you know, indigenous populations or the native population to join. So that's really, really cool. Well, the Catholic women, again, the Catholic Church has their own views on Freemasonry. I've known many Catholic Freemasons, though. Um, I do not know what a Bassmaster is. I assume you mean past master, Delius. Please hit like and subscribe, by the way. That helps out a lot. I assume you mean past master. I would really love to visit Masonic lodges in South Carolina. I think that would be incredible. Um, Chairman Mayo Reese. There are unfortunately many anti-Masonic groups and individuals. Sometimes it's more organized. A lot of times it's just people saying stuff on social media. I mean, unfortunately, what can you do? Sandra Horn, I am okay. I hope you'll hit the like and subscribe button for the record. That would make me even more okay. We have got right now, interesting enough, on this poll question, too high, 47%, too low, 19, just right, 34. Yes, I got a big head. If you want to make me feel better about my big head, please hit the like and subscribe button. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. And thank you all for being here. We'll end this stream shortly because I got a ton of work to do. I've been really lazy this week and it's unfortunate, so I haven't had the chance to do the work that I'd like, but maybe I can catch up this weekend. Native New Zealander Polynesians. Awesome. Like I said, one of the really fascinating things about Freemasonry, at least in North America, is its connections to First Nations groups. A good example is the Indian Oklahoma Degree Team, which is an excellent group. It really promotes the connections between Freemasonry and indigenous groups. So I really do enjoy that quite a bit, or learning about that. I'm wondering if it's the same in New Zealand or if it's the same thing with the Polynesian people in general. I would hope so. I'd absolutely hope so. Well, first, just hit the like and subscribe button, and we'll see after that. Um, we're going to give it another few minutes. And by the way, I might very well be trying some stuff this weekend. So pay attention, follow me on social media, check my posts, turn on your notification bell. That's a really huge deal in terms of helping out, helping me. Like, I can produce all the content in the world. If you don't know how to find it or can't find it, it's not as impactful. So notification bell, follow on social media, all that stuff is incredibly important. You don't need to, but I would say, Gui, you certainly should. And the more you dedicate, the more you're willing to dedicate to Freemasonry, the more you'll get out of it, without question. Um, No, because it's an absolute pigsty at the moment, but I'm going to clean it today. I'm going to clean it and it's going to be wonderful. I do have to shave at some point. You're not wrong. I haven't shaved in like a week. But this is a handsome look. This scruffy beard, I like to think. It's a very handsome look. Um, yeah, cause me 9-3. Immigrants can become Freemasons. Black people can become Freemasonry, can become Freemasons. Freemasonry is about men at a perpetual distance. Um, Men who would otherwise be strangers coming together in friendship, or men who would otherwise be at a perpetual distance coming together in friendship, whether that be immigrants, different races, different ethnicities, all that good jazz. Um, that's one of the beautiful things about Freemasonry, right? Freemasonry seeks to unite, not divide. I cannot text Joe Biden. I do not have his number. I don't know what you think Freemasons have, but I do not have the ability to just text Joe Biden, that's for sure. You're not wrong about that, certified ripper. Unfortunately, I do wish that we in Freemasonry spent a little bit more time learning about. I mean, we don't have to literally, you know, I don't think we have to literally, quote unquote, be able to lay a brick, or would absolutely love it if we actually learned a little bit more about our stonemason roots, knew what stonemasonry was, how it worked, its value to society. You could argue humanity is the story of stone. I mean, it was stone tools and stone shaping that allowed us to evolve through, creating a better diet, getting more protein in our diet, allowed us to create the first permanent homes and permanent structures all year round, like Gobala Tepe. I can never pronounce that correctly, which allowed for agriculture, which allowed for the development of things like it allowed for us to be so much and do so much. Humanity is about stone in a lot of ways. You cannot separate what stone meant to humanity, or you cannot separate stone from the story of humanity. Therefore, I think we in Freemasonry would be well to actually give a little bit more respect to our stone Masonic roots. I don't know where the cat is at the moment. I think the cat's sleeping on my bed, as she very often does. Um, nice. Brotherhood absolutely resonates, Striker Van Kelly. So my other YouTube channel, youtube.com/Cameron Adamson. Um, that's my other main YouTube channel. Please subscribe to that. But thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. We'll be ending the stream in about 5 minutes. I'm just going to hang out and see if we get any last minute questions quickly that I will do my best to answer. Lemon is sour, but good. I like lemons. I will say that. Please hit like and subscribe. And welcome, Caprello. Thank you for being here. I am glad that you are doing good. I am part Neanderthal, but I am all handsome, right? So I am part Neanderthal, but I am all handsome. Please hit like, please hit subscribe. Oh, well, we lost one. We got an unsub. That's okay. I still appreciate you being here nonetheless. Well, don't become drunk at all. Maybe if you're volunteering for bingo, you should not be drinking. You may need to have, you may need to have your wits about you if you're volunteering. Um, and I hope everybody watching this is doing well. I also hope you have a great weekend. I might be doing stuff this weekend. So again, as I'm doing stuff, I will let you guys know. I'll keep you guys informed. Follow me on social media so you know. Turn on that notification bell. Right now, actually, let me double check to make sure I got the dates correct. Well, you can't have a friend who's Neanderthal. Neanderthals no longer exist. They may have Neanderthal DNA, but I don't think you can actually test for that. Right now, we've got 6.2% of my subscribers have turned on the all notifications, and 3% have enabled all notifications for my channel. So that's 3% of my YouTube subscribers. So we need to get that up a little bit. Helps out the channel big time. Thank you, Mr. Keeps, helping a brother out. Lucia, that's pretty much, I mean, that might be possible. It depends on which jurisdiction you're in. But if that's what you want, you're doing it wrong. You should not be focused on trying to advance through Freemasonry as quickly as you can. Advance is even the right term. Just moving through Freemasonry as fast as you can. You're not going to get, as you know, that's not the goal. You shouldn't be interested. It's not about speed. It's about the quality of the experience. I'd rather somebody, spend 3 years from first degree to second degree, but show up to every meeting and enjoy it and learn about it, than have somebody get all 3 degrees within a month or within, 3 months and then never come back again, right? That's the danger. So don't focus on the speed of the experience. Focus on the quality of the experience. That's what matters. Well, certified ripper, don't do that. That seems very unkind. People have their own challenging lives. I do not know how to lay a brick, but I think I'd like to learn. Maybe that should be something I try to learn about at some point. You don't get dinners with Joe Biden at 33rd degree. You don't get dinners with Joe Biden at any degree. That's not what Freemasonry is about. It's not about state secrets or state power or anything like that. If that's why you're joining Freemasonry, you're going to be very disappointed. I'm a Freemason, and Freemasonry does not discriminate based on sexual orientation. So maybe I am, maybe I'm not. It does not matter. Asian, please hit like and subscribe. Asian Roomba. Dominer, please hit like and subscribe as well. All right, Goo, you keep saying the same thing over and over again. May put you in a timeout soon. It stops becoming interesting at a certain point. I've been a Freemason for about 20 years. I joined in 2007, which is crazy to think it's been that long, to be honest. Almost 20 years. It's nuts. Well, then, Asian, I'm happy that you came back, Asian Roomba, and I appreciate it very much. The purpose of this channel is to promote the ways Freemasonry was and is relevant to the communities in which it's located, as well as discuss stories of Masonic interest. Oh, the degree question. I am the highest degree of Freemasonry. I'm a 3rd degree Master Mason. I also joined Scottish Rite, and I'm 18th degree Scottish Rite, but, I know of the Illuminati, but the Illuminati don't really exist anymore. They haven't existed since early 1900s, I think. A lot of people think that Freemasonry and the Illuminati are the same. They are not. So you need to keep that in mind, despite what people think. Not every Mason gets a ring, Dominer, and having a ring does not automatically mean you're a Freemason. A lot of people buy Masonic rings at pawn shops, at stores. They'll design it themselves, and they'll get it just because they like the symbol and they like the design, and they don't really care about whether they portray themselves as being a Freemason or not. However, I do have a ring. This is it here, but you don't use a ring to prove you're a Freemason. Right. Some Masons don't have rings because they just don't want one, or they can't afford one, or they're not interested in jewelry. I know quite a bit about Freemasonry. At least I think I do. I think maybe you don't know much about Freemasonry, you two bucks, but you think you know more than you do. So, Lucia, the highest degree in Freemasonry is not the 33rd degree. That's a misconception and a myth that doesn't understand what Freemasonry is. The 3rd degree is the highest degree in Freemasonry. 33rd is an honorific. It's part of the Scottish Rite, but it's an appendant body. So it's like a parallel track or a lateral move. It's not higher. A third degree Mason is not like 11 times less a Mason than a third degree Mason. If you're in your lodge and you have a 33rd degree Mason and a third degree Mason sitting together, they both have the same authority in terms of their votes. They both have the same ability to speak. One is not more of a Mason than the other or a higher degree. In fact, the highest office in that lodge is the worshipful master, and he may very well be a third degree Mason. He still would outrank the 33rd degree. So this argument of 33rd is the highest degree is incorrect. Again, highest degree is third degree. You can be gay, you can be straight. Freemasonry does not discriminate based on one's sexual orientation, nor should it. Being a Freemason is about being a good man and true. You can be a good man and true if you're gay or straight. Doesn't matter. All right, guys. Thank you all so much. This has been really fun, but I need to do some work because I've been putting it off because I've been super lazy. Talk to y'all later. All right, guys. See y'all soon. There is no discrimination, which is a good thing. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Have a good weekend. Pay attention to what I'll be up to. I'll be doing some stuff soon. So hit that notifications bell.